The coffee cup shattered against the wall 6 in from Zara Mitchell's head. She didn't flinch. 2 years as Daniel Kim's personal assistant had taught her that the man threw objects when quarterly projections disappointed him, not when he actually meant harm. She simply pulled out her tablet, made a note to have facilities clean the wall, and continued her briefing as brown liquid dripped onto the marble floor. The Singapore deal closes in 48 hours unless you fire Chin from accounting like the board wants. Your call. Daniel's dark eyes snapped to hers. Most people wilted under that stare. Zara met it with the same calm efficiency she brought to everything. Her cream blouse, perfectly pressed despite the 15-hour day. Her natural hair twisted into an elegant updo that had taken her 3 YouTube tutorials to master. Professional, untouchable, exactly how she'd survived in a tech industry that wanted her to be anything but. Chin stays. Find another solution. Already did. Restructure the Taiwan account to absorb the loss. I've drafted the proposal. She handed him her tablet. You'll take the heat from the board, but the numbers work. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Respect. He took the tablet, their fingers brushing for half a second. Zara felt that touch like electricity, but kept her face blank. Professional. Always professional. You've been here since 6 o'clock this morning, Daniel said, scanning her proposal. It's 11 at night. So have you. I own the company, and I keep it running. She allowed herself the smallest smile. Someone has to make sure you don't throw coffee at the investors. His lips twitched, almost a smile. Daniel Kim didn't smile often, but when he did, it was devastating. Zara had learned to brace herself for those rare moments when the Ice King thawed. Go home, Miss Mitchell. After you approved the proposal, stubborn, competent, she corrected. There's a difference. He signed off on her tablet with sharp, efficient strokes. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. Board meeting. I need you there. I'm always there. Yes. His eyes held hers for a beat too long. You are. Zara left before that moment could become something else, before the air between them could thicken the way it sometimes did in empty offices late at night, before she could forget that Daniel Kim was her boss, and she was the only black woman at director level in JK Technologies, which meant she couldn't afford even the whisper of impropriety. The elevator descended 40 floors while Zara finally let herself slump against the wall. Her reflection stared back from the polished doors. 28, exhausted, running on 4 hours of sleep and spite. The bandage on her left cheek stood out stark white against her brown skin. She'd covered it with makeup this morning. Apparently, not well enough. Her phone buzzed. Andre again. I can't talk right now, she answered. They came to Mom's house. Her brother's voice shook. Zara, they know where she lives. They said next time it won't be just you they hurt. Zara's hand went to the bandage to the bruise beneath it where the loan shark's ring had split her cheek open. How much do you owe now? 300,000. The interest keeps. I'll handle it. The same lie she'd been telling for 6 months. Zara, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll fix this. I swear. Go to bed, Andre. She hung up before he could hear her voice break. The apartment was dark and empty when she got home. 1 bedroom in a neighborhood she'd chosen because it was safe enough for a single woman, cheap enough to let her send money to Atlanta every month, to her mother's medical bills, to Andre's debts, to the slowly draining savings account that was supposed to be her startup fund. Zara opened her laptop. The AI algorithm she'd been developing for 3 years glowed on the screen. 90% complete. 90% of a revolution in data processing that could make her a CEO in her own right. That could prove she'd earned everything through brilliance. Not because some powerful man decided to help her if she could just finish it. If she could just survive long enough. She worked until 3 a.m., then slept in her clothes, dreaming of coffee cups exploding and her mother's house burning and Daniel's eyes asking questions she couldn't answer. The board meeting started at 8 sharp. Zara stood behind Daniel's chair, tablet ready, watching 12 men in expensive suits dissect quarterly reports. She was the only woman in the room, again, the only black person, again, invisible until someone needed coffee or copies. The Taiwan restructure is risky, board member Lee said, his Korean heavily accented, but his disapproval universal. We should cut losses and fire the accounting team. Daniel's voice was ice. Mitchell's proposal is sound. We proceed as planned. With all respect, Perhaps your assistant isn't qualified to Ms. Mitchell has an MIT degree in computer science and an MBA from Wharton. She's more qualified than half this board. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. We're done discussing her credentials. Zara's chest tightened. He defended her again, which meant whispers again. That she was sleeping with him. That she'd earned her position on her back. That affirmative action had placed an unqualified woman in a role she didn't deserve. She kept her face neutral, professional. The meeting dragged on. Zara took notes, pulled up data on command, existed in the background. At 10:30, she reached for her water bottle and winced. The movement pulled at bruised ribs she'd forgotten about. Daniel's head turned. His eyes went to her face, to the bandage she'd tried to hide with foundation that was never quite the right shade, to the way she held herself too carefully. His expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted. The meeting ended at 11 o'clock. Board members filed out, already on phones, already moving to their next crisis. Zara began gathering materials, planning her afternoon of back-to-back calls and crisis management. My office now. Daniel's voice was quiet, dangerous. She followed him into the glass-walled corner office that overlooked all of Seoul. Daniel closed the door, locked it, turned to face her with an intensity that made her pulse spike. What happened to your face? I fell. The lie came automatically. Try again. Daniel, I appreciate your concern, but how long have you worked for me? He crossed the space between them in 3 strides. 2 years. Have I ever asked you for anything inappropriate? Have I ever given you reason not to trust me? Zara's throat tightened. Then don't insult my intelligence with obvious lies. His hand lifted toward her face, stopped inches away, waiting. Someone hurt you recently. That bandage is fresh, and you're moving like your ribs are bruised. She stepped back. He let her go, but his eyes tracked every movement. It's personal, Zara said. It doesn't affect my work. It affects you. That makes it my concern. The question burst out before she could stop it. Why do you care? I'm your assistant. I'm paid to be professional and competent. What happens outside this office isn't. You think that's all you are to me. His voice dropped rough with something that sounded like pain. After 2 years, you think you're just an assistant. The air between them crackled. Zara forced herself to breathe. What else would I be? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, each word was careful, controlled. You're the reason I come to work. You're the only person in this building who challenges me, who sees past the CEO to the man underneath. You're brilliant and stubborn, and you make me want to be better than I am. He paused. And someone hurt you. So yes, Zara, it's my concern. Her name, he'd used her first name. In 2 years, he'd never I can't do this, she whispered. I've worked too hard. People already assume I'm sleeping with you because I'm a black woman with a good job and a powerful boss. She couldn't finish. If we what? He stepped closer, not touching, just close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. If we acknowledge that there's something between us, something that's been building for 2 years. There's nothing. His jaw clenched. Don't lie to me about this, too. Zara's phone buzzed. Andre, the loan sharks had given her 72 hours to pay or they'd visit her mother. 72 hours to find $300,000 she didn't have. Her hand trembled as she silenced the phone. Daniel saw. Who was that? No one. I have the Reynolds call in 10 minutes. I need to prepare. She moved toward the door. His hand caught her wrist. Gentle, careful. Whatever's happening, let me help. You can't try me. She looked at him. This man who defended her to the board, who remembered how she took her coffee, who noticed when she stayed late and sent her home in his car. This man who could solve her problems with a single phone call and a wire transfer. This man who would confirm every ugly assumption about how she'd gotten her job. I fell, she repeated. That's all. She pulled free and left before he could see her cry. If you're loving this story so far, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think Daniel should do next. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when he discovers the truth. Daniel didn't believe her. Zara saw it in the way he watched her for the rest of the day, in the careful questions he didn't ask, in the protection he offered without speaking. He had her Reynolds call moved to the conference room next to his office, had security walk her to her car, sent 3 emails checking if she needed anything. She ignored all of it and worked until her vision blurred. At 7 p.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Mitchell. The voice was smooth, accented, terrifying. Your brother's deadline just moved up. 24 hours. Bring the money to the address I'm texting you, or we visit your mother tonight. The line went dead. Zara stared at her phone. $300,000. Impossible. Unless. Her hands shook as she opened her banking app. Her startup fund. 3 years of sacrifice of side gigs of selling her grandmother's jewelry. $92,000. Not enough. Not even close. Her 401k. Another $40,000 if she liquidated everything and paid the penalties. Still not enough. She could ask Daniel. One conversation, one wire transfer, problem solved. Her mother would be safe. Andre would be safe. And every person who'd ever doubted her credentials would be proven right. Zara closed her eyes, saw her mother's face, heard Andre's voice shaking with fear, opened her laptop, and began writing the email she'd sworn she'd never write. Daniel, I need to request a personal loan. She deleted it, tried again. Daniel, I'm in a situation where I need delete it again. Her fingers hovered over the keys. 2 years of proving herself. 2 years of arriving early and staying late. Of being twice as good to be considered half as equal. 2 years of building a reputation that a single loan would destroy. But her mother's life was worth more than her pride. She was typing the third draft when her office door opened. Daniel stood there, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. You're still here. So are you. She closed her laptop too quickly. He stepped inside, closed the door. I had my head of security run a background check. Zara's blood went cold. You what? Don't be angry. I needed to understand what's happening. You investigated me. She stood, fury overriding fear. You had no right. Your brother owes $300,000 to a loan shark operating out of Idawan. The same loan shark whose enforcer was arrested last month for assault with a deadly weapon. Daniel's voice was deadly calm. That bandage on your face, that was a warning. They beat you to send Andre a message. Zara couldn't breathe. Get out. No, this is my private life. You have no right to. You're in danger. He crossed to her desk, planted his hands on the surface, leaned in. Do you understand what these people do? They don't stop at warnings, Zara. They escalate. And you're too damn stubborn to ask for help. I don't need your help. Yes, you do. Her voice broke. I need you to respect my boundaries. I need you to see me as a competent professional, not some charity case who needs saving. She stopped, swallowed hard. I need to handle my own problems. Daniel's expression softened. Because if you fix this, everyone will know. The board, the staff, the entire industry. They'll say I'm sleeping with you. They'll say you're paying off my debts because I'm giving you something in return. Everything I've built, every hour I've worked, every achievement I've earned, it all becomes a lie. That's ridiculous. She laughed bitterly. I'm a 28-year-old black woman working as a personal assistant to a billionaire CEO. Do you know what people already assume about me? Do you know how many colleagues have made jokes about how I really earned my position? How many times I've walked into a room and felt everyone wondering if I slept my way here? Who said that? Give me names. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I've spent 2 years proving them wrong. 2 years showing that I'm here because I'm brilliant, not because I'm convenient. If you pay off this debt, I lose everything. If I don't, you could lose your life. The words hung between them. True and terrible. I was going to ask you for a loan, Zara admitted quietly. I had the email written, but I couldn't send it because I knew what it would mean, what it would cost me. Daniel moved around the desk, stood in front of her close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. What if there was another way? There isn't. What if I invested in your startup instead? Zara blinked. You've been building an AI algorithm for 3 years. I've seen the files on your laptop when you work late. It's revolutionary, Zara. It could transform data processing across the entire industry. He pulled out his phone, showed her a document. I had my tech team review the code. They say it's genius. You looked at my private work. She should be furious. She was too shocked. I pay attention to everything about you. His voice dropped, including the fact that you're 90% finished with something that could make you a CEO in your own right. So here's what I'm proposing. I invest $5 million in your startup as lead investor. Public deal, legitimate contract, market rate equity. You use $300,000 of that capital to pay off your brother's debt. The rest goes to finishing your product and launching your company. Zara stared at him. Why would you do that? Because it's a good investment. Because your algorithm is worth 10 times what I'm offering. Because he stopped, something vulnerable crossing his face. Because I'm tired of pretending I only care about you as an assistant. Her heart hammered. I'm not asking you to sleep with me. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to invest in your brilliance. Public deal, professional terms. If people talk, they'll talk about how I made a smart business decision, not about you owing me anything. And what do you get out of it? 20% equity in a company that's going to change the industry. And he hesitated. The knowledge that you're safe, that your mother's safe, that you can stop drowning long enough to actually succeed. Zara's eyes burned. This is still you saving me. His hand lifted to her face, hovered near the bandage without touching. This is me investing in someone who's been saving herself for years. I'm just providing capital for what you've already built. The brilliance is all yours, Zara. I'm just smart enough to recognize it. She wanted to say yes, wanted to let him fix this, to accept the lifeline he was offering. But years of fighting to be taken seriously, paired with the desperate need to protect her family. If I accept this deal, I need conditions. Name them. I stop being your assistant. I report to the board directly. Our professional relationship changes completely. Pain flashed in his eyes, but he nodded. Agreed. The investment terms are public and standard. No special treatment. No hidden clauses. Everything legitimate. Of course. And she took a breath. We figure out what this is between us after the deal closes. Not before. I won't have people saying I used attraction to secure funding. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then you feel it too. I felt it for 2 years. The admission cost her. Every late night, every meeting, every moment. You looked at me like I mattered. But I couldn't act on it because the power dynamic made it impossible. He finished. I know. Why do you think I never said anything? Why I kept you at arm's length even when I wanted nothing more than to he stopped jaw tight. You deserved better than being your boss who couldn't keep his hands to himself. So you're fixing that. Making us equals. I'm acknowledging what you already are. My equal, my partner, the person he didn't finish, but his eyes said everything. The loan shark's address. 23 hours remaining. I need to pay them tomorrow, she whispered. I'll have the investment contract drawn up tonight. The money will be in your account by morning. Daniel's hand finally touched her face, fingers gentle on her uninjured cheek. And I'm coming with you. That's not necessary. I'm not letting you face them alone. Daniel, these are dangerous people. If something happens to you, then they'll learn what happens when someone threatens what's mine. His voice turned cold. The CEO who'd built an empire from nothing. I didn't become one of the most powerful men in Seoul by being soft. Zara, I know how to handle men like this. She should argue, should maintain her independence, but the relief flooding through her was too strong to fight. Okay, she whispered. Together. His thumb brushed over her cheekbone, careful of the bandage. I've waited 2 years to touch you. I'm not waiting anymore. The deal needs to close first. I'm not talking about the deal. He leaned in, forehead touching hers. I'm talking about this, about us, about the fact that I'm in love with you and have been for longer than I want to admit. Zara's breath caught. You can't say that. I just did. We haven't even. I don't need to kiss you to know I love you. I've watched you for 2 years. Watched you work harder than anyone in the building. Watched you fight for respect you should have been given automatically. Watched you sacrifice everything for your family while building something brilliant in the margins. His eyes held hers. I know every expression on your face, every gesture, every tell when you're hiding pain. I know you take your coffee with too much cream and not enough sugar. I know you hum when you're concentrating and you tap your pen twice before making important decisions. His voice cracked. I know you're the most extraordinary person I've ever met, and I'm done pretending I don't love you. Tears spilled down Zara's cheeks. This is insane. Probably. We're going to get so much hate. Let them hate. I'm done caring what people think. Your board will lose their minds. Then I'll replace the board. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. Zara, I built this company from nothing. I can survive scandal. Can you? She thought about it. Really thought about it. About the whispers and the assumptions, and the people who would say she'd used her beauty to trap a billionaire. About the colleagues who would dismiss her achievements and the industry that would question her credentials. Then she thought about her mother being safe, Andre getting help, her algorithm launching with proper funding, building a company where she made the rules, where other women like her could thrive without fighting for scraps. She thought about Daniel looking at her like she was everything, like her brilliance mattered more than her usefulness, like love was possible even in impossible circumstances. Yes, she said. I can survive it with you. He smiled. The real smile. The devastating one he saved for moments that mattered. Then let's burn the world down together. He kissed her then, soft and careful, tasting like coffee and promise. Zara kissed him back. 2 years of tension finally breaking into something real and terrifying and perfect. When they broke apart, his phone was already ringing. His lawyer ready to draft contracts. His head of security preparing for tomorrow. The machinery of his empire moving to protect what mattered. But Daniel didn't answer. He just held Zara while she cried into his shoulder, releasing 2 years of fear and exhaustion and desperate hope. "We're going to be okay," he whispered into her hair. "I promise." For the first time in months, Zara believed him. The loan shark's office was in the basement of a karaoke bar in Itaewon. Zara stood outside at 9 a.m., a cashier's check for $300,000 in her purse. Daniel beside her in a black suit that probably cost more than her car. "Last chance to wait in the car," she said. "Not happening." His hand rested on her lower back, protective and possessive. "We go in together." The bar smelled like stale cigarettes and spilled soju. A man with scarred knuckles led them downstairs to a windowless room where another man sat behind a desk. Middle-aged, expensive watch, smile that never reached his eyes. "Miss Mitchell, you brought a friend." "I brought payment." Zara placed the check on the desk. "We're done." The loan shark picked up the check, examined it. "This clears your brother's debt." But his eyes traveled over her, lingering on the bandage. "You cost me an employee. Police arrested him after he visited you. That's bad for business." Zara's stomach dropped. "The debt is paid. We're finished." "Not quite. I think you owe me compensation for my loss." He leaned back in his chair. "Maybe you work for me. Pretty girl like you. Educated, access to rich men. You could be very useful." Daniel moved before Zara could process the words. One moment he was beside her. The next he had the loan shark by the throat, lifting him partially out of his chair. "Let me be very clear." Daniel's voice was ice and death. "You will take the payment. You will never contact this woman or her family again. If I hear her name mentioned in any context, if any of your people so much as look in her direction, I will dismantle your operation piece by piece and feed you to the fish in Busan Harbor. Do we understand each other?" The loan shark nodded frantically. Daniel released him, brushed imaginary dust from his jacket. "Miss Mitchell's business with you is concluded. Permanently." Outside, Zara's knees nearly gave out. Daniel caught her, pulled her close. "It's over," he said fiercely. "You're safe. Your family is safe." His thumb stroked over her knuckles. "Does it scare you?" Zara thought about it. About the man who just threatened a loan shark with casual efficiency. About the CEO who'd built an empire and knew exactly how to wield power. About the person who'd held her while she cried and invested in her dreams and looked at her like she was precious. "No," she said quietly. "It doesn't scare me. It makes me feel safe." Something in his expression shifted. "Relief may be good, because I'm done being careful around you." They drove back to JK Technologies in silence. The investment contract was waiting in Daniel's office, already reviewed by lawyers, ready for signatures. $5 million for 20% equity in a company that didn't exist yet, except in Zara's laptop and dreams. "This is real," she whispered, staring at the papers. "This is you getting what you've always deserved." Daniel handed her a pen. "Sign it. Start your empire." Zara signed with shaking hands. Her name next to Daniel's partners equals the wire transfer hit her account 30 minutes later. $5 million. More money than she'd ever imagined having. Enough to save Andre, finish her algorithm, hire a team, launch properly. Enough to change everything. "What do I do now?" she asked. Daniel pulled her close, hands settling on her waist. "Now you stop being my assistant. Tomorrow you move into the executive suite 3 floors up. You build your company. You show everyone what I already know, that you're brilliant enough to revolutionize this industry. And us." He leaned down, forehead touching hers. "We figure out together slowly, publicly. Let everyone adjust to the fact that I invested in your company because it's genius. And I'm in love with you because you're extraordinary." 2 separate facts that happen to be true simultaneously. Zara laughed, slightly hysterical. "The board is going to have a collective heart attack. Probably, but they'll survive." His hands tightened on her waist. "Can you survive it? Really? Because once we do this, once we go public with both the investment and the relationship, there's no taking it back. People will talk. They'll make assumptions. Some will be cruel. About the whispers that would follow. About every colleague who'd say she slept her way to funding. About the articles that would focus on her relationship with Daniel instead of her algorithm. Then she thought about her mother calling that morning crying with relief that the debt was paid. About Andre in rehab, actually getting help. About the algorithm 90% complete. And now properly funded about Daniel looking at her like she was everything. I've spent 2 years being invisible. Zara said, being careful, making myself smaller to fit into spaces that didn't want me. I'm done with that. Let them talk. I know the truth. You know the truth. And eventually when my company succeeds, everyone will know the truth. That you're brilliant. That I earned everything. She pulled him down for a kiss. Including you. He kissed her like he'd been starving for it. Like 2 years of restraint had finally broken. His hands slid into her hair, careful of the pins holding her updo in place. She gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, tasting coffee and promise and the future they were building. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I should get to work, Zara said. I have an algorithm to finish and I have a board meeting to prepare for. I'm announcing your departure and the investment tomorrow. They're going to ask questions. Let them. Daniel's smile was sharp. I'm very good at making people understand business decisions and investing in you. Best decision I've ever made. The board meeting the next morning was chaos. Zara stood beside Daniel at the head of the table, no longer behind his chair, and watched 12 men try to process the announcement. You're investing $5 million in an unproven startup. Board member Lee demanded. I'm investing in revolutionary AI technology that will transform data processing. Miss Mitchell's algorithm is years ahead of current industry standards. Daniel's voice was calm. I've had our tech team review it. The projections are remarkable. But she's your assistant. She was my assistant. As of today, she's the CEO of her own company and one of our portfolio investments. I expect everyone to treat her with the respect her position deserves. Another board member leaned forward. Is there something else we should know about this investment? Something personal. This was it. The moment where rumors became reality. Daniel's hand found hers under the table. Squeezed once. Then he stood, pulling her up with him. Yes, Ms. Mitchell and I are in a relationship. We have been for several weeks now after 2 years of maintaining strictly professional boundaries while she worked as my assistant. The investment is legitimate, market rate, and reviewed by 3 independent law firms. The relationship is personal, consensual, and no longer constrained by professional power dynamics. He looked at each board member in turn. Any other questions? The room exploded. Questions, objections, concerns about optics and ethics and corporate policy. Zara stood there, hand in Daniel's, and let him handle it. Let him defend her. Defend them. Defend the decision to finally stop hiding. When the chaos finally settled, board member Choi spoke quietly. The technology. Is it really that good? Yes, Zara said. Her first word since entering the room. It's that good. And now I have the funding to prove it. 6 months later, Zara stood in front of 200 people at the Seoul Tech Conference. Her algorithm had launched 3 weeks ago. 5 companies had already signed contracts. The tech press was calling it revolutionary. Daniel sat in the front row watching her present with unconcealed pride. The future of data processing isn't about speed, Zara told the crowd. It's about intelligence. About systems that learn and adapt. That's what we've built. That's what we're offering. The applause was thunderous. After her presentation, journalists swarmed questions about the technology, about funding, about her relationship with Daniel. She answered everything honestly. Yes, they were together. Yes, he was an investor. No, the investment hadn't been influenced by their relationship. Yes, she'd earned everything through her own brilliance. Some people would never believe her, but most just wanted to talk about the algorithm. That night, in Daniel's penthouse that had slowly become their penthouse, Zara curled against him on the couch. I got 3 more investment offers today, she said. All legitimate. All based purely on the technology. Of course you did. You're revolutionizing the industry. His fingers traced patterns on her shoulder. I told you that you were brilliant. You invested when no one else would. I invested because I'm smart enough to recognize genius when I see it. He tilted her face up, and because I love you. Those are 2 separate, equally true facts. Zara kissed him. I love you, too. Even though you're overprotective and intense, and threatened a loan shark for me. Especially because I did that. She smiled against his mouth. Okay, definitely because of that. An email from MIT. They wanted her to speak at their computer science graduation to tell her story to inspire the next generation of women in tech. They want me to speak at MIT. She whispered. Of course they do. You're Zara Mitchell, CEO, innovator, the woman who revolutionized data processing and didn't let anyone stop her. Daniel pulled her closer. You're everything I always knew you were. The world is just catching up. Zara thought about the bandage that had started everything. About the loan sharks and the fear and the impossible choice between pride and survival. About Daniel seeing past her professional mask to the woman underneath. About fighting to be seen as equal. And finally, having the world acknowledge her worth. I was invisible for so long, she said quietly. I thought that was safety, but it was just another prison. You're not invisible anymore. Daniel's arms tightened around her. You're blazing so bright the whole world has to notice. And I get to stand beside you and watch. Beside me, she repeated. Not behind me, not in front of me. Beside you. Always, he kissed her forehead. Partners, equals, that's what we are. Zara closed her eyes, letting herself feel safe, feel seen, feel loved. The coffee cup that had shattered against the wall seemed like a lifetime ago. The woman who'd flinched at every assumption, who'd made herself small to survive, who'd believed invisibility was strength. She was gone. In her place stood a CEO, an innovator, a woman in love with a man who saw her brilliance before he saw anything else. And when Daniel whispered, "Marry me," into her hair that night, when he promised her forever as equals, as partners, as two people building empires side by side, Zara didn't hesitate. Yes to everything. Yes to forever. Yes to burning the world down together and building something better. He kissed her then deep and claiming. And Zara kissed him back, tasting possibility and promise and the future they'd fought for. Outside, soul glittered. Inside, two people who'd started as boss and assistant, who'd navigated impossible power dynamics and dangerous threats and the world's ugly assumptions, held each other close and planned their empire together. Always together. And somewhere in Atlanta, Zara's mother got a call from her daughter, saying she was getting married, saying she'd built a company, saying she was finally beautifully, perfectly free. The bandage had healed. The bruises had faded, but the strength it took to accept help, to demand equality, to refuse to be diminished, that stayed forever. Zara Mitchell had stopped being invisible, and the world would never forget her name. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful romance stories. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Comment below and tell me what you loved most about Zara and Daniel's journey. And if you want more stories about strong women finding love on their own terms, smash that like button right now. See you in the next. 2 years after MIT, Zara stood in her glass-walled corner office on the 40th floor of Mitchell Technologies, watching Seoul's skyline shimmer in the afternoon heat. Her company now employed 300 people across 4 countries. The algorithm that had started as desperate salvation had become the backbone of data processing for Fortune 500 companies worldwide. She should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt the familiar tightness in her chest that came with fighting battles she thought she'd already won. The knock on her door interrupted her brooding. Her assistant, Jean, peered in nervously. "Ms. Mitchell, the board meeting has been moved up to 4 o'clock. They're calling it an emergency session." Zara's stomach dropped. She knew exactly what this was about. Victor Henley, CEO of Dataflow Industries, had been circling her company like a vulture for months. His latest hostile takeover attempt had the backing of 3 major investment firms and a media campaign designed to destroy her credibility. The tech press had been brutal. Headlines questioning whether a young black woman could really run a company this size. Articles suggesting that Daniel's continued investment was more about their relationship than business sense. Op-eds wondering if Mitchell Technologies was built on solid ground or romantic sentiment. Zara had weathered it all with professional grace, but she could feel the pressure mounting from her own board members. "Thank you, Jean. Can you please send a message to Daniel? Tell him I might be late for dinner." "Of course, ma'am." Jean hesitated. "Ms. Mitchell, for what it's worth, everyone here believes in you. We know you earned everything." Zara smiled, the first genuine expression she'd managed all day. "That means more than you know." The boardroom felt like a battlefield. 12 faces around the polished table, 8 men and 4 women. all wearing expressions that ranged from concerned to openly hostile. Board member Chen cleared his throat. Zara, we need to discuss the data flow situation. Their offer is substantial. $45 billion. $45 billion for a company Zara had built from nothing. That was worth at least $60 billion by any reasonable valuation. It's a lowball offer designed to pressure us into a quick sale, Zara replied calmly. Our quarterly projections show continued growth. We're expanding into 3 new markets next year. The technology sector is volatile, board member Williams interjected. She was one of the women Daniel had recruited specifically to support Zara, but even she looked uncertain. Data flow has stability, established infrastructure. Maybe it's time to consider a strategic partnership. Partnership wasn't what data flow wanted, and everyone in the room knew it. They wanted to gut Mitchell Technologies, absorb the profitable algorithms, and eliminate the competition. They wanted to erase everything Zara had built and put Victor Henley's name on her innovations. I've been getting calls, board member Rodriguez admitted. Other investors, major clients. There are concerns about leadership stability, about whether the company is too dependent on personal relationships rather than business fundamentals. The words hit like physical blows. 2 years of proving herself, 2 years of revolutionary success, and they were still questioning her competence. Still suggesting that her achievements were somehow tainted by her relationship with Daniel. Let me be absolutely clear, Zara said, her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. Mitchell Technologies has exceeded every performance metric for 2 consecutive years. Our client retention rate is 97%. Our innovations have been adopted by 70% of major corporations worldwide. Our stock price has increased 400% since launch. If you're questioning my leadership based on anything other than these numbers, then you're questioning the wrong things. But the doubt was there, poisonous and persistent. She could see it in their faces, the whispers about whether she was really qualified, whether Daniel's influence was too strong, whether a black woman could truly lead in this industry. I think we should table this discussion, board member Zhang suggested diplomatically. Give everyone time to review the numbers, consider all options. Zara knew what that meant. Time for more whispers, more doubt, more pressure to cave to data flow's demands. Time for Victor Henley to chip away at her support until the board decided she was too much of a risk. The meeting ended with uneasy promises to reconvene in a week. Zara gathered her materials, maintaining her professional composure until the last board member left. Then she slumped in her chair, exhaustion hitting her like a wave. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Dinner at home. I have news that might help with the data flow situation. She smiled despite everything. Daniel always seemed to know when she needed him most. The penthouse smelled like her favorite Thai food when she arrived. Daniel emerged from the kitchen, still wearing his business suit, but with his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. The sight of him, solid and reassuring, made some of the day's tension ease from her shoulders. Rough day, he observed, pulling her into his arms. The roughest. She buried her face in his neck, breathing in his familiar scent. The board is wavering. They're scared of the media attention, scared of making the wrong choice. Daniel's arms tightened around her. They're scared of backing a brilliant black woman who threatens the established order. That's what this really is. He was right, but that didn't make it easier. Victor Henley had weaponized every prejudice, every assumption, every fear about her competence and her relationship with Daniel. The tech industry's boys' club was rallying to protect one of their own, and Zara was standing alone against the tide. Daniel led her to the couch, poured her a glass of wine, and sat beside her. Now, about that news I mentioned. I spent the afternoon with my lawyers and a team of investigators. We've been looking into Dataflow's financials, their business practices, their real motivations for this takeover attempt. Zara raised an eyebrow. Daniel's resources were vast, his network of information impressive. What did you find? Victor Henley is desperate, Daniel said with satisfaction. Dataflow is hemorrhaging money. They lost 3 major contracts last quarter, their stock price is down 30%, and their latest product launch was a complete failure. They need your technology not just to compete, but to survive. More importantly, his acquisition offer is being funded by offshore accounts that trace back to some very questionable sources. Money laundering, tax evasion, possibly worse. If this information becomes public, His entire empire collapses. Zara stared at him, processing the implications. You want me to use this information to stop the takeover? I want you to have all the facts when you make your decision, Daniel corrected. This is your company, your choice. But yes, Victor Henley has built his reputation on lies and stolen money. If he's going to attack you in the media, maybe it's time the media learn some truths about him. It was tempting, so tempting to fight fire with fire, to destroy the man who was trying to destroy everything she'd built. But something held her back. If I do this, if I expose him, people will say I only won because of you. Because you gave me information I couldn't have gotten on my own. They'll say I needed a man to save me again. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. What if we approach this differently? What if instead of destroying Victor Henley, we focus on building something he can't touch? That night, they stayed up until 3 a.m, planning and scheming and dreaming. By dawn, they had a strategy that would not only save Mitchell Technologies, but position it as the undisputed leader in AI technology for the next decade. The next morning, Zara called an all-hands meeting. 300 employees packed into the main conference room and overflow spaces, connected by video feed to international offices. Rumors had been flying for weeks about the potential sale, about job cuts and restructuring. People were scared, uncertain about their futures. I know you've all heard about Dataflow's acquisition attempt, Zara began, her voice carrying clearly through the microphone. I know there are concerns about what this means for our company, for your jobs, for the technology we've built together. I'm here to give you facts, not speculation. Dataflow has offered $45 billion for Mitchell Technologies. It's a substantial amount of money. It would make many of us very wealthy. It would also destroy everything we've worked to build. She paused, letting that sink in. Dataflow doesn't want to partner with us. They want to eliminate us. They want to break up our teams, absorb our innovations, and put their name on our achievements. They want to turn revolutionary technology into just another corporate product line. The room was completely silent, hundreds of faces focused on her with absolute attention. But here's what Dataflow doesn't understand, Zara continued, her voice growing stronger. This company isn't just about algorithms and stock prices. It's about proving that innovation comes from diversity, that the best ideas emerge when we give brilliant people the freedom to think differently. It's about showing the world that a Black woman from Atlanta can build an empire that changes how technology works globally. It's about creating opportunities for people who've been told they don't belong in this industry. The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. Zara waited for it to subside before continuing. So here's what we're going to do instead of selling to Dataflow. We're going international in a major way. Next month, we're opening offices in London, Singapore, and Sao Paulo. We're hiring 500 new employees over the next year. We're launching 3 new product lines that will revolutionize not just data processing, but artificial intelligence, machine learning, and quantum computing. We're not just staying independent. We're becoming unstoppable. The energy in the room was electric. People were on their feet, cheering, chanting her name. Zara felt the familiar thrill of leadership, of inspiring people to believe in something bigger than themselves. After the meeting, as employees filed out buzzing with excitement and renewed purpose, Jean approached her with a stack of messages. Ms. Mitchell, you've had 47 calls in the last hour. Reuters, Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, they all want statements about the expansion announcement. Also, board member Chen wants to schedule an emergency meeting. And she paused, looking uncertain. Victor Henley's assistant called. He wants to meet with you personally. Zara smiled, feeling more like herself than she had in weeks. Tell the press I'll have a full statement by end of day. Tell Chen the board can meet tomorrow morning. And tell Victor Henley that if he wants to discuss business, he can submit a formal proposal through proper channels like everyone else. Yes, ma'am. Jean grinned. It's good to have you back, Ms. Mitchell. Zara looked around her company, her empire, the place where brilliant people of all backgrounds were changing the world one algorithm at a time. She thought about the scared assistant who'd hidden bruises under makeup, who'd believed invisibility was safety. That woman felt like a stranger now. I never left, she told Jean. I just remembered who I am. The board meeting the next morning was a completely different atmosphere. News of the international expansion had sent Mitchell Technologies' stock price soaring. Major tech publications were calling it the boldest move in the industry. 3 new investors had submitted proposals for partnership deals that would value the company at $70 billion. Even board member Williams, who'd seemed ready to support the Dataflow sale just 2 days earlier, was now talking about the wisdom of staying independent. This expansion plan is ambitious, board member Rodriguez admitted, reviewing the detailed proposal Zara had submitted. Very ambitious. But the preliminary numbers look solid. The market response has been overwhelmingly positive. Ambitious is what built this company in the first place, Zara replied. Playing it safe might feel comfortable, but it doesn't drive innovation. We have the technology, the talent, and the momentum to dominate this industry for the next decade. The question is whether we have the courage to seize that opportunity. Board member Chun, who'd been vocal about the Dataflow offer, cleared his throat. Zara, I owe you an apology. Some of us let external pressure cloud our judgment about your leadership. The media attention, the speculation about outside influences, it made us question decisions that should have been based purely on performance. You've more than proven your capabilities. Thank you, Zara said simply. But let's be clear about something. The media attention, the speculation, the questioning of my competence, it's not going to stop. As long as I'm a black woman running a major tech company, as long as I'm in a relationship with Daniel Kim, there will always be people who assume I didn't earn my position. The question is whether this board will stand by facts and performance, or whether you'll be swayed by prejudice disguised as business concern. The room was quiet, the weight of her words settling over everyone. Board member Zhang spoke first. You have my full support, Zara. Your leadership has been exemplary, your vision has been profitable, and your integrity has been unquestionable. One by one, the other board members voiced their agreement. The Dataflow offer was formally rejected, the international expansion was approved, and Zara felt a sense of vindication that went beyond business success. After the meeting, as she walked back to her office, her phone rang. Daniel's name appeared on the screen. How did it go? He asked without preamble. Better than expected. The expansion is approved, Dataflow is officially rejected, and the board just got a very clear lesson about supporting their CEO regardless of external pressure. Perfect. His voice was warm with pride and satisfaction. I have some news too. Victor Henley's company lost 2 more major contracts this morning. Apparently, their potential clients weren't impressed by the hostile takeover attempt. Sometimes karma works faster than expected. Zara laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. Speaking of karma, did your investigators find anything else interesting about our friend Victor? Daniel's voice took on a predatory edge. Oh, Zara, you have no idea how interesting it gets. But let's save that conversation for dinner. I have a feeling Victor Henley is about to become very, very busy dealing with his own problems. That evening, as they sat on their penthouse balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline, Daniel showed Zara the full extent of his investigation into Dataflow Industries. Financial fraud, tax evasion, bribery of government officials, systematic discrimination in hiring practices, and the piece de resistance, Victor Henley's personal use of company funds for illegal activities that would land him in federal prison for 20 to life. It's almost too easy, Zara mused, scrolling through documents that would destroy Henley completely. We could end him with a phone call to the right journalist. Daniel nodded. But you're not going to do that, are you? She looked at him, surprised by his certainty. How do you know? Because you're better than that. Because you don't need to destroy other people to prove your worth. Because Mitchell Technologies succeeded based on innovation and leadership, not corporate warfare. He paused, studying her face in the soft light. And because you know that winning this way would always leave doubt about whether you could have won on your own merits. He was right, of course. The temptation was there. The desire for revenge against the man who'd tried to tear down everything she'd built. But Zara had spent too many years proving herself to resort to shortcuts now. Instead, the next morning, she did something that surprised everyone. She sent Victor Henley an invitation to visit Mitchell Technologies, to see firsthand what he'd tried to acquire. The tech media went wild with speculation. Was Zara Mitchell planning some kind of public confrontation? Was she going to humiliate Henley in front of his peers? Was this corporate theater or business strategy? None of them guessed the truth. When Victor Henley arrived at Mitchell Technologies the following week, Zara gave him a complete tour of the facilities. She showed him the research and development labs where diverse teams were creating revolutionary algorithms. She introduced him to employees from 15 different countries working together on projects that would shape the future of technology. She demonstrated innovations that were 2 years ahead of anything Dataflow had ever conceived. "This is impressive," Henley admitted grudgingly as they concluded the tour in Zara's office. "Your technology is more advanced than our intelligence suggested. Your team is clearly talented. But talent doesn't guarantee long-term stability. Markets change, innovations become obsolete, leaders make mistakes." "You're right," Zara agreed. "That's exactly why I invited you here. Because I wanted you to understand what you're really trying to acquire. It's not just algorithms or market share or stock valuations. It's a culture of innovation that can't be bought or copied or replicated through corporate takeovers." She leaned back in her chair, completely relaxed despite facing the man who'd spent months trying to destroy her. "Dataflow Industries has been struggling because you've been focused on acquiring other people's innovations instead of developing your own. You've been so busy trying to eliminate competition that you've forgotten how to compete." Henley's jaw tightened. That's quite a lecture from someone who's been in business for 2 years. 2 years during which Mitchell Technologies has accomplished more than Dataflow managed in the previous decade, Zara replied smoothly. "But here's what I'm really curious about, Victor. Why target my company specifically? There are other AI firms you could have pursued. Other technologies you could have tried to acquire. What is it about Mitchell Technologies that made you willing to wage such a public, aggressive campaign?" For a moment, Henley's corporate mask slipped, revealing something uglier underneath. "You want honesty," he said, his voice low and bitter. "Fine. You don't belong here. This industry, this level of success, it's not meant for people like you. You had one good algorithm and a billionaire boyfriend willing to fund your fantasy. But real leadership requires experience, connections, understanding of how business actually works at this level. Sooner or later, reality catches up with diversity hires and affirmative action darlings. I was just trying to minimize the damage when you inevitably crash and burn." There it was. The raw prejudice, the assumption that her success was illegitimate, the belief that she was somehow taking up space meant for someone else. Zara had heard variations of this speech her entire career, but never delivered with such naked honesty. Instead of anger, she felt something like pity. "Thank you for being honest," she said quietly. "It helps me understand the real problem here. You see, Victor, you're operating from a worldview where success is zero-sum, where someone like me achieving something means someone like you losing something. But innovation doesn't work that way. The best ideas don't come from protecting the status quo. They come from bringing new perspectives to old problems." She stood, walking to the window that overlooked her thriving company. "Mitchell Technologies exists not despite my background, but because of it. Because I understand what it feels like to be underestimated, to have to work twice as hard for half the recognition. That understanding drives me to build better systems, to create opportunities for other people who've been overlooked, to innovate in ways that people who've never faced those challenges might never consider." Henley was silent, his face flushed with embarrassment and anger. "When you go back to Dataflow," Zara continued, "I want you to think about something. Your company is failing not because of market conditions or bad luck. It's failing because you've built a culture that values conformity over creativity, that prioritizes protecting existing advantages over generating new ones. You can't innovate when you're afraid of change." The meeting ended with handshakes and professional courtesies, but everyone in the room understood what had really happened. Victor Henley had revealed his true motivations, and Zara had responded not with vengeance, but with a lesson in leadership that would be remembered long after the immediate crisis passed. Within a week, the business press had moved on from speculation about hostile takeovers to analysis of Mitchell Technologies' international expansion. Within a month, 3 major corporations that had been considering partnerships with Dataflow switched their proposals to Mitchell Technologies. Within 6 months, Dataflow Industries was restructuring under bankruptcy protection, while Mitchell Technologies was being valued at over $100 billion. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was the message Zara had sent to every young person who'd been told they didn't belong, every brilliant mind that had been overlooked because of their background, every innovator who'd been dismissed because they didn't fit the traditional mold. Success wasn't about destroying your opponents. It was about building something so undeniably excellent that opposition became irrelevant. standing in her office late one evening, looking out at Seoul's skyline while her global teams worked around the clock on projects that would change the world, Zara allowed herself a moment of pure satisfaction. The scared assistant who'd hidden bruises and worried about rent was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd learned that true power came not from being accepted by existing systems, but from building better ones. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel, who was traveling in Singapore setting up their new Asian headquarters. Saw the news about the London office launch. 300 applications in the first day. You're building something incredible. She smiled, typing back a response. We're building something incredible. Together. Always together. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new innovations, new opportunities to prove that excellence knew no boundaries. But tonight, Zara Mitchell simply stood in her empire and remembered how far she'd come from that elevator where she'd slumped against the wall, exhausted and invisible. She was invisible no longer. She was unforgettable.